So I'm pretty late to this whole thing. It's pretty crazy. It's about this woman named, well, I think there's no doubt she's a woman now, Natalia Grace, who, part of the story, there are a few things that are funny about this story, which is people don't know, first of all, the true story here, really. And second of all, it's extremely confusing, and that people can barely figure out what even is supposed to have happened here. So, from people, like I said, don't understand, from the parents of this, or the adopted parents of this girl, are claiming that when they adopted her, she was a dwarf. Well, okay, she's always been a dwarf, but that she was an adult dwarf posing as a child to get adopted by American parents as like a big scam. She's claiming she was not, and she was a child. And usually, I watched about 5 videos on this, and I still can't make head or tail out of it. So I'm gonna play some of these, kind of commentate over them, and I don't know, we'll see. So the first time the story broke, and it's kind of been relevant again somewhat recently, and I'll explain why, is about 5 years ago in 2020 or late 2019, where Inside Edition posted a story that was about if a Florida couple adopted a grown woman, is what they said. So let's listen in. I'll pause when necessary. Kind of like one of the commentary videos we do on the show, except I'm alone. And you decide what you think here.
Now a story making headlines around the world. Is this child a child or a grown woman? A Florida couple say they were duped into adopting her from Ukraine. They claim they were told she was only 6 years old, but then...
Well, I mean, if we're going to start off here, obviously you can't see, but they have a photo of her. I mean, first of all, she looks literally exactly like a child. I would have no problem believing that's a child if I was just told that she was and there was no doubt planted in my mind. And the crazy thing is, in some photos she looks like a woman, and in some photos she looks like a little girl. So I don't know. It's hard to explain, but we'll get into that. So that's kind of the first very striking thing about this whole story.
Then they say red flags started to pop up, leading them to believe that she was much older. On top of that, the child's adoptive father tells our Stephen Fabian she threatened to kill his family.
This just took a turn. That just took a turn.
Of a child or a woman posing as a child. Her name is Natalia, and in 2010, she was adopted by Michael and Christine Barnett. They were told she was originally from Ukraine and was afflicted with a form of dwarfism.
Yeah, watching these videos, it's kind of disturbing because you really can see both angles. She could be a little person, or, well, again, there's no doubt she's an adult little person, or she could be a child. It's really hard to just say from the videos. That's kind of the eeriest thing about them. Although in these videos they're showing right now, she kind of looks more like a child. I will give them that.
Okay, at that moment, 6.
But questions about Natalia's age surfaced the first night they brought her home.
And by the way, I think this is important to point out, in case you missed it, that there's no doubt she's afflicted with dwarfism, but there's just doubt if she's 6 years old. And that kind of makes sense, because at first I thought they believed she was just a normal 6-year-old girl who didn't have dwarfism. And that was the craziest part, because if that was the case, then there are moments where you can definitely tell she's a dwarf just based on her like bone structure. Because besides just being like shorter, I think most people do acknowledge dwarfs have what seems, I'm sure this isn't the correct medical term, but a different bone structure than average height people. So you can definitely, if she was only one or the other, it was not already decided that she could be both, she would definitely be a dwarf. But whatever. I mean, like I said, she can be both in this story. So, and she is both. So moving on.
Barnett was urgently called into the bathroom by his wife, who was bathing Natalia.
She's got this look on her face. She's white as a ghost. She's scared. And she just says, look.
Why do you have to talk about this like it's a horror story, man? I mean, I know that I do admit I'm being a dick with this, because I'm sure this, if she is an adult, this is a traumatizing thing, I'm sure. Or if not traumatizing, it's a disturbing thing. But some of the situation is just crazy. There's no choice but to laugh at some of it.
You think you have a 6-year-old in your house, and there are signs that she's already gone through puberty, which would make her much older than 6 years old.
Yeah.
And really? That'd make her much older than 6 years old? I thought she'd just be barely past 6 years old, guy.
They say there was something else.
She's got a monthly cycle, and she's hiding it.
Yeah, I was going to say not to be disgusting or vulgar or whatever, but I feel like that would have been the quickest way to tell if this was true or fake or whatever. I mean, somehow like monitor her menstrual cycle or something if she has one. So I don't really know. And by the way, the video, if I remember correctly, doesn't really explain how or if they do or whatever, but yeah, that's the craziest part. I think that would be the easiest way to tell, but whatever.
And I'm stunned.
There was another red flag.
Technically, she is a Ukrainian adoptee. She's never spoken a word of it. She doesn't have a hint of an accent.
Yeah, that is one of the things where you couldn't tell from that. Like, that was another thing where I've heard her talk before. Like I said, I don't know even a lot about the story in terms of what really happened, but I've heard her speak before. She doesn't have an accent at all. So was that not a disturbing part? Although, to be fair, when you're 6 years old, I guess maybe you're still kind of developing your voice or how you talk, or maybe not really. I don't know. I don't remember if I still was when I was 6, but whatever.
Hello and happy Thanksgiving.
The family already had 3 sons. One son, Jake, is a math genius who was profiled on 60
This is a
Minutes
crazy
in
part.
2012.
This is a really crazy. So this family's been on TV before because the son was on 60 Minutes, I guess, for something he did, and there is footage of her. She was adopted by then in there, and yeah, I mean, just watching it again, doesn't matter at all, whatever. Assuming she was not like a dwarf. I mean, if it was just confirmed this was not a scam, she's clearly, a dwarf from how she's sitting and eating and all that. You can just tell in her hands and all that, but that's still, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of crazy that she was here. It's like when you find footage of, I don't know what it is, but it's kind of like reminds me of those footage like Alfred Hitchcock showing up in his own movies,
In the segment, you can see Natalia sitting at the dinner table with the rest of the family.
She attempted to kill Christine twice.
Okay, this is getting crazy. I don't know what this is about, but she attempted to kill the mother, apparently. Like with a knife or with a gun or like inadvertently.
According to Barnett, Natalia allegedly tried to poison his wife with a household cleaning product, Pine Sol.
She had poured the Pine Sol into her coffee. She just says blatantly, plainly, no emotion, "I'm trying to kill you. I want you dead."
Barnett.
Okay, that's a thing where I don't understand what the motive of the dwarf would be. That's the thing where I'm conflicted because on one hand, I mean, if that's true, well, there you go. I mean, case in point right there. But I don't know if that's something a crazy, like a 6-year-old would say as a joke, or if it's something an adult would say because, they're trying to kill her. But then at the same time, if I do kind of wonder, that sounds so absurd. I kind of want to, I mean, did that happen? And I mean, she denies it. So I don't know. That's one of the craziest parts.
Barnett says Natalia expressed a desire to stab the entire family in their sleep.
Whoa.
It was at that point that the Barnetts said they had enough.
Yeah, when they say expressed a desire, I kind of want to know, did she write a note saying it? She put a drawing on the refrigerator of her with a knife and all the family dead? Like, how exactly did she express that desire? And I feel like, I mean, I will say for the record, maybe this is obvious, but if your daughter is expressing wishes to kill you should probably take her to a psychiatrist.
They decided to move and start a new life without their adopted daughter. They packed up their lives and headed north of the border to Canada, but they left Natalia to fend for herself all alone at this apartment in Lafayette, Indiana.
Yeah, that's one of the craziest parts. So first of all, I guess they found it necessary to flee the country, and then they left the daughter in an apartment in Indiana. I mean, well, first of all, I mean, it's not like I guess you can't just give her back, I mean, that's not how it works. Yeah. Hello, is this Ukraine? I'd like to ship one orphan back. This one's not working. Yes, I can hold. But anyway, yeah, you can just, I don't know what their plan was here, and I didn't even know. So they got an apartment to put the daughter back in. That seems maybe like a bit of overkill. I don't know how you could do that. But also it makes me wonder, kind of, do they think at all, is there any possibility that this is real? That she is, in fact, 6 years old? Because if so, then, well, you just left your 6-year-old daughter, I mean, adopted daughter, but your daughter nonetheless, at a random apartment to fend for herself. I mean, that can count as attempted murder, man. Regardless of, your relation to her. I mean, if she was 6 years old, you'd probably be charged for that. That timed up perfectly. I'm so glad I could ramble about random stuff for that long to where the music would end right at the perfect time.
The Barnetts paid a year's rent for Natalia. He says Natalia is capable of taking care of herself.
At least the kid didn't have to get a
since,
job.
In his opinion, she is an adult pretending to be a child. Barnett's lawyer, Terrence Kennard.
We have done a massive amount of research on this, looking at historical records, medical records, mental health records, and it is apparent that A, this person is an adult and always has been when she was in the care of the Barnetts.
The Barnetts face 2 counts of felony neglect, charges that they say
That's what I was
miss the
thinking.
point entirely.
Well, I mean, that is kind of, if you're going to leave your adopted child, or maybe not child, but an adopted member of your family in an apartment, that's kind of to be expected. But also, I mean, I don't know, like, you probably should have, the best way to handle this is probably go to the police, but this little person threatening to kill you and your wife and your whole family. But I guess they thought the easiest solution would be to spend, thousands of dollars on rent for a year for this child and just leave her there. And also, it's kind of weird that did the family not express any, the children not express any sort of sadness that their sister is going to be gone, as far as they know, or they decided to explain to them, your sister, unfortunately, is not actually a child. Your sister is a grown woman who decided to try to kill the family because she has some sort of problem.
Do you have any doubts that Natalia is an adult?
Absolutely not. There's no doubt whatsoever.
Well, all right, that's part one there. Shut up, Blondie. Now, moving on, Inside Edition did kind of a follow-up 2 years ago where they talked about this a bit more, this adoption story of Natalia Grace, as her name is. And I don't know. I don't really get what more could have been followed up on, because it seems there was nothing more that could have been followed up. Because I watched this too, and it really answered very few questions, for me at least. But whatever, let's take a look at this.
Now, a bizarre story, unlike any other. A family thought they were
Yeah, it really is
adopting
unlike
a
any other.
6-year-old girl from Ukraine. But was she really a child? The family claims she was actually an adult who made their life a living hell. As Stephen Fabian reports, a new docu-series discovers the truth.
Yeah, when I said this was relevant again, this is kind of, there was a somewhat recent, and in fact, it was somewhat recent at the point where I think it only wrapped up a little while ago, a documentary series about this little girl and, no pun intended, this little girl and her life with this family. So I guess there's a bit of a renewed interest. I don't know, but let's see what Inside Edition has for us this time.
Little Natalia Grace was at the center of a bizarre
Yeah,
controversy.
they show another picture here. I cannot tell if she's a dwarf or a little girl. It's like impossible to tell. Or, a grown dwarf, and it's impossible to tell. It's just ridiculous.
That riveted America. She was adopted in 2010 by a family from Indiana who were told she was a 6-year-old Ukrainian orphan. But they say they discovered she was really an adult with dwarfism, just posing as a child.
By the way, great job on the name of the documentary series, guys. It's called The Curious Case of Natalia Grace. Thanks, guys. This is William Shakespeare levels of writing titling. I'm sure he'd be proud. I'm sure Dr. Seuss would be proud if he was here today.
They also said she was a violent sociopath.
We were all abused. I hate this. Did you want?
Yeah, that's a bit funny that they say the girl's a violent sociopath, and they decided to cut to the dead. We were all abused. I mean, maybe he was, but that's still an interesting edit there. Can we see that again?
She was a violent sociopath.
We were all abused. I hate this. Did you want to hurt?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I don't know if that makes me an asshole or whatever. I'm sorry. Again, I'm sorry to this family because whatever happened, it's clearly a very traumatizing experience. But yeah, this is just that's kind of, in fact, it's not even an insult to the guy. It's an insult to the editors here. That was a great way to interloop the shots. That is not a word.
Natalia is the focus of a
There he
new
is, punching the
documentary
ground.
series, The Curious Case of Natalia Grace, airing next week on the cable channel ID.
And the viewers will decide for themselves what the truth is, because frankly, my head was spinning with this story as I learned.
That's a great
more
look
and
for the
more.
legal
Natalia
analysis.
made
That's
headlines in
the
2019
show's legal analysis. That's a great look for you. Oh, I don't really know what happened. I don't know. Who knows?
Her adoptive parents, Michael and Christine Barnett, abandoned her in an apartment and fled to Canada. They were charged with neglect of a dependent, but were exonerated.
Did it really take fleeing the country? Like, that's the thing. Did they flee the country? I mean, I said they figure that she'd know where they are if she didn't. Although it's fair, she probably wouldn't. I mean, if she's a 6-year-old, would that prove if she's a 6-year-old girl or not? Because if she was an adult, she could just follow them back, right? I don't know.
Michael Barnett told me they knew something was wrong with Natalia soon after adopting her.
She's got a monthly cycle, and she's hiding it. And I'm stunned. She had spent every waking day attempting to ruin everybody else's life in the house. She's threatening to kill us. She's trying to kill us.
But I also...
Well, to be fair, was it happening? I mean, again, not that it's not happening, but I mean, is it happening so much that it was becoming like a daily thing? I don't know. Were there no good times? That's all I'm asking. Maybe there weren't. I don't know. I mean, you don't remember, oh, there were the good times when she was on 60 Minutes and ate the spaghetti, and there were the good times when my wife bathed her before she started to suspect she might be an adult. There were good times.
Also spoke to this couple, Vincent and Nicole DePaul. Natalia had stayed with them before she was adopted by the Barnetts.
Yeah, this is another thing. There's some more characters in this story, and these are two dwarfs who adopted another dwarf as well as Natalia. I guess they decided they wanted to kind of have a family of dwarfs, I guess. I mean, nothing wrong with that, but I guess they have some say in this story too.
They showed me documents indicating her birthday.
Date of birth, 9/4/2003. Right. According to this, she's 16 years old today.
Exactly.
There are people out there who think she's 30.
That's ridiculous. I'd say that's ridiculous.
Natalia.
Yeah, well, okay. So I guess I mean, if those documents are real, then there it's done. She was the little girl, and the family kind of just dropped her off. But whatever. I mean, for some reason, that's not enough, I guess. Although, when we get to the next clip, you're going to understand maybe why that wasn't enough.
Ended up with yet another family.
Praise the Lord, everybody.
An ordained minister. The producers of the docuseries say the truth about Natalia may be found in war-torn Ukraine.
She's a different person today, I think, from the one that's been portrayed.
Yeah, so I guess she's living with someone else now. My head is spinning, man. To quote that lady, my head is spinning. Well, anyway, the next clip we have, this is, again, a few years ago, so we're actually going back in time again, but I put this clip next because it's her with this new family they were talking about. She did an interview with none other than the king of trash TV, Dr. Phil. He decided to stick his hands into this and interview her directly, which I think was probably the smartest move anyway, to just talk to this girl. But again, and I will say it's plants some doubt in my mind just because she would have been 16, I believe, 17 by the time of this interview. But she still seems older than that. I don't know. But I guess, again, the ages of like 16 to early 20s kind of blend together. So maybe she was an adult, maybe she wasn't. I don't know. Here, let's listen to a little bit of the doctor's interview here.
They say that you scammed them, that you lied about your age and came over here and terrorized them.
It's not true at all.
And if that were true, it would have been exhibited with you. You haven't seen that.
Right.
And we have other children. We have a grandson. She does nothing but loves her siblings and her nephew. She has never showed any signs of those things that they say she did.
So yeah, now she's crying a bit now, which is pretty sad. I mean, it kind of, again, maybe helps her case a bit that it's like there's some emotion as if she's just being lied about like that. And I do think, to be fair to these new parents, I mean, to give them credit, I feel like there are people who maybe would suspect them that they're in on this for publicity or whatever, and they think she's an adult, but they won't, they're going all, oh, well, no, she's not to get on Dr. Phil. I don't think that's the case. They seem like nice people. I mean, obviously I'm probably not a great judge of character in any scenario, but that's just my takeaway.
She acts just like a big sister. She makes bottles for them. She gets their clothes if she needs to. She makes them lunch sometimes. Yes.
Everything that the next brother or sister would do for their siblings, she does.
Here's what America's asking themselves right now.
Okay.
Here's this obviously very nice couple, and they've got a 14-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a newborn on the way. And they're moving. I
mean, not to be no offense, but wait a minute, they have a grandchild and they got more children coming and a newborn. That seems a bit. All right, I mean, I guess you can do whatever you want with your life, but that seems a bit, I didn't know if you had grandchildren, you really would be able to have more children, but okay. I mean, some people have grandchildren young, I guess.
Moving in a child that somebody's saying she can look okay one minute and be psychotic the next. Were you at all concerned at the time that we could be putting the children that we have in jeopardy?
We were not.
I didn't get that impression because when I seen Natalia, I looked at her physical disability as well. Just her behavior in itself did not come off in any kind of manner. And I'm usually the one that's like, hold on, wait a minute. Let's be careful about, I'm usually that type of person. I did not get that at all from her.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I believe him. He's probably telling the truth here, but you know, whatever. I doesn't, or at least the truth as he sees it. I couldn't speak to what's really going on here.
Yeah.
Me and my husband adopted these kids. It's like, who would do it if you don't? Who will help if you don't? We've done this with other people as well.
Well, apparently, I don't know, whoever owns the apartment helped. I mean, if she paid rent to live there, but I'm assuming they helped with some stuff, which they kind of did, which we'll see in the next clip.
You know, Natalia's not the first person we brought in our house like that.
You say you're 16. Are you a 33-year-old scam artist?
No. 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 I promise you I'm not.
But you understand the inconsistencies here, because if somebody asked me, can you drop an 8-year-old child off in an apartment for a year and come back and they'll be doing fine, I would say absolutely not.
Right.
But
yeah, that's kind of the biggest. I'm not gonna make a full verdict till the end here, but I think, frankly, that's the biggest thing for making me just say I believe her, because that is a bit strange that it happened. That's not really the real question here, which I'll get into later, but that's the biggest question I have at this moment. But I will give her credit also that she seems to have been very consistent in what she's saying in terms of how old she is. So I don't know if that speaks to anything at all.
But yet that's what we're expected to believe here, that without cash, credit cards, physical abilities to do certain things, that she just functioned fine in an apartment for a year. That's hard to believe.
We get that. But when she stayed in her first apartment, they were there more. It was the second apartment. I believe if we wouldn't have met her...
Oh, God, there's 2 apartments now.
It would have been terrible for her.
I felt like I was just kind of getting a grasp on what happened. Then you had to freaking throw a wrench in there and tell me how it's wrong. And yeah, the comments on these videos are really weird, because I think there are so many people who are just wondering what happened, like what's going on here. Like, I never been so confused by a story before than this one. The medical field is so advanced, but they can't figure out someone's age. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. There's no. Okay, I guess it's hard to. They wouldn't be exact, but they can't do any sort of age guessing, like DNA age guessing, or based on her bone or tooth or whatever. Jesus Christ, if you can guess a cat's age at the vet, I'm sure you can guess a person's age. Take her to the vet. Maybe they'll understand what's going on here. Thank you. I solved this whole case. All right, stop. Now, anyway, besides just, she said she sometimes went to Barnott's room because she was scared of darkness. Then how did she live in an apartment by herself for a year? Is that really how you spell the last name? That's a good point, though. Although I don't know the details on that, I guess. But anyway, they can find the age of a deceased body by a tooth alone, but they can't look at her teeth and find out how old this girl. Yeah, that's the thing I was wondering here. Before the Barnetts adopted her, another family had her for a short period of time and gave her up. They refused to say why, but I'd really like to hear what happened. I wonder if they noticed the age or psychological issues. But yeah, anyway, but yeah, that's kind of what it seems like, to be fair, though, the people who are like commenting and are saying that, it seems like the majority opinion is they think that she is lying here. I don't know. I guess I can't say for sure. But I can't, like I said, I was kind of leaning towards I believe her, but I'm not making an official comment on it now. But yeah, it's very complicated here. But anyway, there's a part 2 to the this Dr. Phil video, and he asks a few more questions. Let's take a look at that.
You have had Natalia with you for how long?
Well, 6 years, but almost 7.
Now, you two met her on the neighbor's porch.
Yes. And my friend called me and was like, you need to come down here right away. So I go over there, and she said, she's telling me she's 22. Like, look at her. She's not 22. And I go, are you 22? She said, yeah. But you could tell that it was just like, Yeah, because I was told,
That's
yeah.
what I'm supposed to say.
Okay, so I guess the family told her to say that she's an adult when that people ask. I wouldn't do that if I mean, I guess there's a thing where, again, maybe it kind of speaks to her favor here that, when you're a little kid, you just kind of do whatever an adult tells you and don't think that much about it, especially your parents who are like authority figures. I don't know. I don't really know, unless she's completely blowing her cover and she wants to just say she's 22. I don't know.
So I go, okay. And she said, I have my own apartment. And I'm like, no, you don't. And she's like, I do. And I'm like, show me. So she took me over to her house, and it was definitely her apartment. She had a bed in there. She had a TV. She had like some boxed food in her freezer. I was like, well, I have a couple kids at home. Come on down. You can play with them, talk with us, whatever. So she came to our house. And
Well, she was claiming she was 22 at the time. Are you completely sure you want to let her around your children when you're not really sure about this? Whatever. I'm not going to say I'm not going to make any judgments on what they're saying here, I guess.
Hung out down there, and she never left. She's been with us ever since.
She never left. Well, I mean, I guess, it's for the same reason when you let a stray cat in your house. They're not going to leave. They see food, they see shelter, they see a litter box possibly. Like, they got a good thing going on over there. Why would they leave?
Is that like you to do something like that?
We do
when you
help.
just find this random person on the street and say,
Yeah, usually I tell 22-year-olds to come into my house and just, take a load off, live there for a while, don't worry about getting a job. Yeah, it's a pretty common thing.
come hang out with us.
Well, not typically. We help a lot of people, but my motherly heart was like, there's no way she could take care of herself. I was like, I can't just leave her there.
Well, to be fair, she was kind of doing an okay job at that point. She was a little kid living on her own, and she was fine. She was kind of doing an okay job at that point.
How old were you at that time?
I was 8 years old, maybe almost 9.
So, at 8 years old, you're living alone in an apartment.
Yes.
And
I don't know why she kind of seemed kind of hesitant there, but whatever. Maybe I'm looking too
getting
deep
your
into
own
it.
groceries.
I actually didn't even go grocery shopping. My landlord took me to it was like a gas station or something just to pick up a couple things.
Well, where'd you get your food?
The Barnetts, they had given me like food that they didn't really eat, like canned foods and stuff like that.
I mean, to be fair, I guess. Wait, so were they driving from Canada back to Indiana to give her food, or was they just gave her a bunch of food and just said, after this, you're on your own, good luck. This story, I thought I had a grasp on it, but now it's slipping away from me.
And how long had you been in the apartment when you went?
It wasn't that long. I think maybe about a month and a half.
Okay. Well, I have a granddaughter about that age, and I can't imagine her living in an apartment by herself. What did they say to you when they took you over there and dropped you off?
They just said, we're going to get you an apartment and we're going to Canada.
Did you say, I'm 8?
I didn't.
Well, I mean, they should have probably remembered that if they were good parents, but that's a bit of a shocking way to just put out. They're going to Canada. I mean, like that it requires no further explanation. Okay, I mean, I guess to be fair, and look, whether or not she is actually an adult, whether she's a child, I think we can all agree the parents probably should have handled this better. I mean, if you think she's an adult, like report her to the authorities or something for fraud. Don't just drop her off in an apartment and flee the country.
I didn't know what to say. I didn't really know what was going on at first until like after.
Oh, you don't know they're going to Canada. They just explained it right to you. What are you, stupid?
Like, I was confused.
Were you scared?
I was. I didn't really want to leave the apartment, but I had to go to school.
So you went to school?
Yes.
How far was the school?
Maybe about a block away from the house.
So this is a new school?
Yes.
An adult school.
Christine, she had signed me up right after I moved in, after that day.
And then when you met her, she was in her second apartment. And you stayed in that first apartment for a year at 8.
They don't really explain very well. An adult school, like college or something, community college. I don't really know what they meant by that, but I guess I would feel they shouldn't be too concerned about school when they're, leaving a little girl in an apartment, but whatever.
Years old.
Yes.
It sounds like you were in a group home in the Ukraine. And you come here when you're 6. And here's what I know about children that are in group homes. They're almost always developmentally delayed. So if you come here from a group home at 6, best case, you're probably functioning at developmentally at 4 or 5. So you go into an apartment functioning at 6 or 7. A 6 or 7-year-old child living in an apartment alone for a year, that's just not believable to me. How does that happen?
I think that she groomed her before she did this to have her ready for this.
But in terms of activities of daily living, health, food, stove, working with an oven, a 6-year-old child just simply doesn't know how to do the activities of daily living for independent existence.
Well, call me naive, but I don't know. I'm not saying it's necessarily the most believable, but I mean, I think it's possible she could have done the bare minimum for that year. I mean, again, I'm not saying it's likely, but it's possible. I wouldn't write it off as impossible, because when they say she was eating, I doubt she was, making like lasagna or spaghetti, like complicated meal. Okay, spaghetti's not a complicated meal, but you know what I mean. I doubt she was cooking that much. She probably was just going to the gas station to buy freaking candy bars and like Hot Pockets and stuff, whatever you can get there. It's not like she was living on a nutritious diet or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, it's not necessarily likely, but I feel it's possible. Like, I'll tell you what, maybe there's a controversial take, but I'll tell you what. For like high schoolers out there, there's no one listening to the shows in high school. But I will say, if anyone is, as someone with this kind of experience, when you move out for the first time, it is really not as hard as some people make it out to be. I mean, supporting yourself at first is not as hard as people would make it. I mean, it gets harder when you have bills to pay and you need a job and you have to go to the grocery store. But when you go to like college or something, because she didn't have the responsibility of having a job, they paid for the rent. Which really all she had to do was buy simple groceries and like food. I don't think it's necessarily impossible that she did this. Again, not likely, but not impossible.
Well, I know in the apartment when we met her, she didn't use the stove. She cooked in the microwave.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Did she teach you a routine?
She didn't really teach me like how to like take care of myself, but she did say like if someone asks you how old you are, you tell them that you're 22.
And who paid the bills?
Michael.
So
yeah, these guys. There was a huge flaw in this whole operation. Like, instead of just reporting her, you take out money to get another apartment, pay the bills. I mean, is this family rich or something? I mean, I guess their kid's a math whiz or whatever, and so he can get on 60 Minutes. But do they give you a check for that they were paying for all this for?
Well, all you had to do was go stay behind that closed door.
Okay, yeah, well, that's it. Well, yeah, I don't know. It didn't clear that much up. I mean, that was probably the biggest question, and that, like I said, that was the main thing where, again, I would have just believed that she was, she was a 6-year-old child, had it not been for the fact she lived in that apartment for that long. But again, what are the other comments here? Yeah, I asked her if she was 22. She said, yeah, but I didn't believe it. Yeah, okay. It's fun coming back to seeing all the comments that she was clearly lying about her age. She wasn't. Just goes to show, don't believe everything you see on the internet. Okay, I guess, yeah, some of the people here don't believe so, and I guess that seems to be the new opinion, that the new opinion most people have, that she was not a grown woman. Some pictures she looks like a kid, and others she looks like an adult. Absolutely disgusting how they neglected and furthermore vilified a 9-year-old disabled orphan child. And I hope Dr. Phil will apologize to her now. She wasn't lying. Yeah, so I guess most people now believe she was a child. And yeah, to be fair, I mean, if that's confirmed, yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's really just, we all should apologize. Well, not me, I didn't know about this at the time, but everyone who was saying she was not that old should apologize at this point. If it's basically confirmed that she was a child, or at least that's how it seems like everyone is, acting. And okay, I guess some of the proof, now that I'm just looking at the comments, is that they apparently found her birth mother in Ukraine, and they proved she was born in 2003. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know if it's completely true. And also the other thing that was interesting is there was a comment I read that I'm going to read out because it looked a bit long. So they read the series, and I do kind of want to just know what this is, or they watched the series rather. I just watched the 6-part series on Natalia Grace. I have to tell y'all, Christine was lying. She does deserve jail time. She abused Natalia severely, and her behavior is classic child acting out in the face of abuse. The Barnetts really messed that little girl up. And by the way, she was a little girl. Maybe a few years off, but a child still. And a child with special needs. I've done a 180-degree turn on my take on this story, just an FYI. She was not evil. She was abused and had a terrible childhood. Her current family loves her and has seen no bad behavior from Natalia. Well, first of all, why did everyone spell the last name wrong before? It's clearly just Barnett, it seems like. That's not a hard last name to spell, but everyone would seem to be screwing up the whole time. But whatever. Yeah, I don't. I guess I don't know if the documentary has any explanation of the apartment thing, but whatever. That's what they claim. But yeah. So, oh, by the way, before I give like my verdict or whatever, right here I'm seeing from 10 years ago when it was initially came out. I guess someone posted the 60 minutes of when the kid was on TV. Their other kid was on TV, and the little girl was in the background. Let me guess what all the comments are here. Who was your after the Natalia Burnett case? All right, it's sad to see how things actually turn out for this young man. Oh, I guess a lot of them are people. I guess. Yeah, I guess a lot of people are upset. I guess something happened to the son as well. Well, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Well, here's kind of a funny. I guess one comment's kind of from back when people thought she was faking. Guess who's not the oldest anymore? All right, that's pretty funny. That's a good one, guys. Oh my god! I keep clicking on the applause. I mean, here we go. There we go. All right, I'm still figuring out the soundboard, guys. I'm sorry. I can't do much right now. I'm not the smartest. But anyway, I kind of hinted at it before, but I do at this point feel like I should probably say, what do I think about this whole thing? Natalia Grace. Do I think that this is true, what she's saying in terms of is she actually an adult? Is she a child? What is the whole thing? Well, I'll tell you. In my opinion, I really don't understand completely. I gotta be honest here. Okay, look, all right, I gotta explain here, all right? This is what I mean. I would say I feel like she was telling the truth, to be honest. I mean, because the main reason why I thought she looked like an adult before is in some of those pictures, she has a look where it looks like you can just tell she's a dwarf from the photos, and that kind of makes it seem, when you have that in mind, you mentally, at least I do, say, oh, she might be about a few years older than a child would be, or how they would look at that age. So, I don't know. I guess that kind of explains the whole picture thing. But aside from just that, I would say if the birth mother thing is real, also that birth certificate they showed earlier, which no one really elaborated on, but I felt like, made sense in terms of it looked like, I mean, no one ever disputed that, would prove right away that she is, if not exactly 6, a child still. So I feel like if I had to guess, I'd say I believe her in what she's saying. But it's just, I don't know, it's just hard to tell, especially because there are things kind of going against her that, again, it's not impossible, but the whole apartment thing I feel like was never properly explained, frankly. But that's just how it is, I guess. Maybe some things won't be explained. And again, it's not impossible, but I feel like there's not really, I still don't really understand completely how she was able to live like that. And then also, I guess I don't really get why she doesn't have an accent or anything. But whatever, again, that's not impossible, I guess, but I guess no one's really disputing she was born in Ukraine, I don't think. I mean, maybe that's non-evidence. So I feel like it's most likely she's telling the truth and that she is a child, but I don't know, it's just impossible to say, at least for me, or I guess maybe not impossible, but very unlikely. And again, this is not supposed to be some complete massive, I know everything. This is just from what I've seen. I haven't seen the TV show. I probably will at some point because I'm kind of invested now, but yeah, that's how it is at the moment. I believe she is probably telling the truth, but I couldn't say for sure. But anyway, from her Wikipedia page, I said I'd look at it. I'm just skimming through it real quick. It did mention that there is going to they list her date of birth, and they don't really put any debate around it, as September 4th, 2003, which would make her, again, a child at the time. Not exactly 6 years old, but a child still. And that they were able to confirm her mother, who is in Ukraine. So that's some information they have, I guess. But anyway, yeah, I guess they don't know exactly all the details at this point. Although, again, the current family is saying that she doesn't behave badly around them. I don't think they're lying about that. I think they're telling the truth. So, I don't know. I hope we can find some sort of concrete evidence on this whole thing at some point. But will they? I mean, if they haven't by the time of the series, I doubt we ever completely will.